Hey, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome to Sit Down. Kylie Bunbury is here with us. The Twilight Zone, Season 2, CBS All Access. Kylie, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm great. And I'm even better because I watched your episode of The Twilight Zone this morning. And it takes you into a whole different world. And especially with your episode, it's you, it's Topher Grace. There's reincarnation. There's a time loop. There's a lot of cool and interesting stuff going on. What was it actually like being in this world?
For me, it was right when I read the script, I thought it was so interesting because it read more so like a play. You know, it's just two characters going through a museum for the whole time. So me and Topher had a lot of material to learn. We approached it in this way where we wanted it to come off as this sort of like this sweet, cute, romantic comedy that takes a turn. So we wanted people to really invest in these two characters and kind of root for them in terms of maybe a relationship blooming of some kind. The experience was amazing. We shot in Vancouver, which is definitely one of my favorite places to film. And we got to film in a real museum. So all of those masks, a lot of the stuff in the museum, it's real. So the museum really added a certain level of richness to the episode. But it was really fun. We also went in chronological order, which helped with the buildup of the creepiness. But it was such a joy, and such a joy to work with Jen and to work with Topher, who obviously is incredible and is really good at playing this type of role. He kind of did this same sort of character in Black Mirror as well. Yeah. He's making some really interesting choices, and for me, that's why I was like, okay, I definitely want to do this.
Yeah, I love roles where you see actors just stretched into different places that they've never been before. And even with this show, you mentioned it's like, yeah, there's this little romance building, and then like, boom, right on a dime, you're changing into a different emotion. So what's it like when you make that shift? Because suddenly your character is a lot more defensive. Your character is getting ready to fight. Like, that's not easy to just jump right into, even if it is chronological order.
Yeah, I think the key in those moments when it comes to acting is just to be very present, to really listen and respond in that moment, in that imaginary circumstance. So for me, I was just taking in what was going on in that moment as much as possible, and just shifting with the oddness of him, you know, saving me from getting hit by a bottle or the gum dropping on the floor, just kind of, being more aware. Because the whole episode is about toxic masculinity. It's just sort of set in this sci-fi groundhoggy type of way. So it was more about just picking up those subtle red flag clues that I think a lot of women and men have experienced in the start of a potential relationship.
Yeah, it's really important you say that because a lot of men may not pick that up right away, but like it's very clear that toxic masculinity is a huge part of this one, especially too because like Mark as Topher Grace, like he thinks he's done enough to win your character over, and it's like that's not how this thing works, especially like when you have no idea what's actually happened, right?
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where, and my character says it in the episode, just because I've said that I've loved you once, you think that you're owed it now.
Right.
So it's really sort of exploring, it's discovering that Mark himself can't control his world or the people around him because of his selfishness and his lack of awareness, so it's really just diving deep into, I guess what would it be? It's just really diving into the toxic masculinity aspect, or just any sort of entitlement, really. Feeling like you're owed something, or just because you love someone, it does not mean that person now needs to love you back.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about the show is like in the span of a 40-minute episode, like there's multiple layers of just that point, and then there's multiple layers throughout the entire series, which I think is really cool. So when you think about Jordan Peele as a creator, like you've worked with some really interesting people. What was it about the world he created with the Twilight Zone and even just this episode that really just blew your mind in general?
For one, I think Jordan Peele is a very unique genius. He has an acute eye for what is relevant today, but then sort of expands on that in ways that we've never seen before, you know, with Get Out and with Us. And what I gravitated toward was the fact that, you know, getting to work on something that has Jordan Peele attached to it in any way. But also I've always been a big fan of the Twilight Zone. I even have the DVD set of the 19 all-time favorite classics.
That's awesome.
And I like sci-fi myself. So I just wanted to be a part of it because of it's the Twilight Zone. You know, like,
yep.
Not going to say no to the Twilight Zone, and certainly not going to say no when Jordan Peele's attached to it. And he's really has set the bar, I think, in terms of artistry.
My wife took a master's class that looked at Black Mirror and Twilight Zone, the old Twilight Zone episodes. And it's just fascinating to see, like, even decades ago, how some of this stuff still applies to what we're talking about today.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I was just thinking about, the episodes. One of my favorite episodes from the classics, just looking at, The Invaders or The Eye of the Beholder,
yeah.
Mirror Image. I can't even believe that they were talking about things like this back in the 50s and the 60s, and it applies today pretty heavily. Also, people just want people. I feel like sometimes people with the whole escapism thing, they want to go into some unknown territories and explore worlds unknown. So it's been can you hear my dog right now?
No, you're good. What kind of dog do you have?
A Rottweiler. Can you cool it?
No, you're totally fine. I mean, listen, we do all these things at home. It's like stuff's gonna happen. Like,
I know. I tried to give her some treats. Told her to be quiet. Mama has to do some work.
That's funny. So you mentioned like art serves a really important function in terms of exploring worlds unknown, but also exploring worlds that are not too far in the past. And you did that with When They See Us. And Ava DuVernay is another incredible creator. And I've talked to Yusef Salaam, and it's heartbreaking to hear his story about what he and the rest of those young men had to go through. What was it like for you to be a part of that world?
Anytime I'm asked about When They See Us, I always kind of need a moment. It really lands.
It's emotional. Yeah, it hits you.
Yeah. That experience, I'm so grateful for. It opened my eyes to things that I guess I didn't even allow myself to really know that was going on back then and is still going on today. Obviously, we're seeing that with the movement that's currently going on. My experience was, it's such a mixture of things, we were on set with all of the men. And I played Kevin's sister. And so I got to meet Angie as well, and she came on set. So it was a very powerful, sad, but also empowering experience. Empowering in the sense that, they are exonerated, and empowering because we have leaders like Ava DuVernay who are creating pieces like this for us to see what's really going on and to start really difficult conversations and open our eyes more to what's really going on in the world and what has been going on. But the experience was beautiful. I just feel so much gratitude that I could have been a part of something so impactful and that resonated with so many people.
Yeah, it's empowering because it changes that whole conversation, just going from Central Park 5 to Exonerated 5, and really
Right.
getting to know the actual stories of everybody involved, because so many people just knew that case, saw what Donald Trump put in the New York Times, and then that's where they kind of left it until all these guys got out of prison. But this gives the context and, like you said, allows us to have more of a conversation.
Yeah, definitely more of a conversation. Um, and I think we are now in the midst of even heavier conversations and awakening and shifting of how we go about our day and really knowing the history of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so mind blowing, is that a lot of people didn't and don't know the actual history of the United States and why people are screaming Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I just feel really grateful to have been a part of something a couple years ago that is now being watched more and more in the midst of a movement.
I think another one of your shows that will have a future shelf life is Pitch. And, you know, my wife and I really love that show. And just take me back, like, you know, 4 years ago when you're getting that going, like that serves such an important role, because it's like you are a woman playing in baseball and also just like a really cool role. So what do you remember most about that?
I remember a lot. I mean, that show, nothing's ever felt the same since that show, really. From cast to story to crew, to what the show was about.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Ginny definitely holds a special place in my heart. I still, you know, people always talk about, oh, do you think it could ever come back? And I would love to step back into Ginny's shoes again. That role for me was one, it was easier for me to step into the Ginny role because of my athletic background.
Right.
And I also really gravitate toward characters that are strong and complex and have, you know, a little bit more of a I guess, a swag.
You pulled off the swag. That was one of the best parts.
Thank you. But yeah, that was one of the most incredible experiences to actually, I had to learn how to pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to pitch on real mounds in stadiums. And I just loved, you know, the team aspect of it. I loved what it stood for. I loved that it was a character that young girls could look up to. And I love that it was a woman of color. Mm-hmm. with complexity, not right. just playing, you know, one note.
Yeah, it's not just being a member of the team. It's being the star pitcher of the team. It's being the only woman on a men's baseball team. Like, that goes such a long way. And the other thing with pitch is, like, there was more room to run there. Like, there was more meat to chew on there. And, like, 10 episodes, great. But, like, come on. Like, let me give you an example. Like, I was thinking about this before. Like, All American is an example of a TV show on CW.
Yeah.
It's fine on TV. It gets to Netflix, and it's one of the top Netflix shows, right? Like, if Pitch had gone to Hulu in 16 or 17, like, that could have really changed the game, in my opinion. Have you thought about that stuff?
Yes, I've definitely thought about that stuff. I mean, me and the cast still talk about that stuff. You know, there was so much more to explore. You know, like, for me, I really wanted to give Ginny the opportunity to take a knee. Mm-hmm. Even just that.
Good point.
You know, I just feel like it was a little bit ahead of its time, and I don't necessarily know if it was on the right platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, to explore all the things that we potentially would have wanted to.
Yeah, if you make Pitch in 2020 and it's just right to streaming, like, I'm telling you, like, it's popping in a different way, because even like Ginny taking a knee in a baseball game, like, 4 years ago when Bruce Maxwell did that for the A's, or when Colin Kaepernick did that, it created this whole crazy media stir. And now it's a much different landscape. Like, imagine the conversations we could have now in 2020. I mean, 2016 was great, but, like, I really do think 4 years makes a difference.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes a difference. I'm just thinking back to all the ways that me and the cast and the writers were talking about, oh, hey, next season, this is, I mean, we really felt, and it came from a place of humbleness and humility, but we knew how special the show was. So we would always be talking about, oh man, I wonder what's going to happen to Ginny after the injury,
Right.
or, oh man, do you think we'll be able to do this, or go to the World Series, or so, and now I'm sad.
Well, it was like that cliffhanger too. It's like she gets hurt, and you're just like, we're gonna end it here, really? Like, come on.
I know.
But be thankful it happened. Like, that's what we gotta look at.
Oh,
Hopefully, one
yeah.
day down the
The
road
most.
we can make it happen again. But I know you're thankful for it.
Yeah, no, the most thankful for that opportunity, definitely.
So you've done all these cool things in your career so far. What else piques your interest? Like, are there different worlds you want to go into? Like, what else is coming up down the road that you're really excited about?
Well, I am about to start a new show on ABC called The Big Sky, which takes place in Montana. I play a private investigator. I'm really excited about this role because it's one of those slice of life kind of shows. It's small town. It kind of gives me like a Fargo feel. I'm not going to say it's like Fargo. Okay.
But Fargo-esque. Let's just.
But Fargo, yeah, it just I love like the ruggedness, the mountainous. The landscape seems really interesting, and my character is ex-rodeo, so I've got to ask them to put me on a horse.
I mean, it's kind of a must.
A black cowgirl on a horse.
That's cool. I just like the depth of the roles that are on TV now. It just feels like even in the time that you've been doing this, like there seems to be some growth. Obviously, we have to make more inroads in terms of, all different types of people on TV and in leading roles. But like even the role you mentioned, like that's just different than the run-of-the-mill stuff that was there a few years ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like people want to see themselves, and people want to see difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes us all so beautiful. So it's cool. Even though I think there are too many streaming platforms, there's too much out there, and it's oversaturated, and I can't pick a show to save my life. It takes me about 3 hours to try to find something on Netflix. I do think that it's a really, really beautiful time for film and television, in the sense that anyone we can see everyone. We are able to see and experience everyone in different cultures and different experiences, and enter different worlds. It's a cool time. It's a cool time to be alive in terms of art, I think. I guess we'll just have to see what happens, with COVID and how that sort of changes everything. But yeah, pretty cool.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Kylie, thanks so much for jumping on. Be well, and we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
You too. Be well. Much love.